In this video, I'm going to show you how we can configure EIGRP stub router with the next function receive only. Actually, when you configure receive only, it means that I don't want to advertise anything to my neighbor. For example, in router 3 and router 4, the spoke routers, when you configure EIGRP stub router with the receive only, the router 3 and router 4 only learn EIGRP update from their neighbors, and they don't advertise anything to their neighbor, include the connected networks, include the summary networks, or some other things. You can use this option for some specific purposes. For example, when you want to increase security, or when you want to, for example, do maintenance on router 3, router 4 spoke routers, and you don't want to advertise anything to the other routers. Let me to show you. This is our scenario like the previous video. Here in the router 1, if you check the routing table of router 1, show IP route EIGRP, you can see that router 1 learned about these two network, 172.16.2.0/24 and 172.16.30/24, and also in the router 2 we have these two networks, show IP route EIGRP in the router 2. Now I want to configure the router 3 and router 4 as the EIGRP stub, but they have the receive only option. It means that router 3 doesn't advertise 172.16.2.0/24 to R1 and R2, and router 4 doesn't advertise 172.16.3.0/24 to router R1 and router R2. In the router 3, you need to use this command, router EIGRP1 EIGRP stub, and then receive only. That's it. And also in the router 4, let me to use the similar command, but you know that here we should go to the router EIGRP lab and address family IPv4 unicast AS number 1. Here you can use EIGRP stub receive only, the same command. That's it. Then in the router 1, if you check the neighborship table, show IP EIGRP neighbor detail, you will see that we have two neighbor, router 3 and router 4. Both of them are receive only peers, and because of that they don't advertise any networks or no routes to the router 1 and also to the router 2. In the router 2, show IP EIGRP neighbor detail, we have similar condition. Let me to show you the routing table of the router 1. Show IP route EIGRP can show us that here we don't have any EIGRP learned networks from the router 3 and router 4, include their connected networks and include their learned network, for example 170.16.1.1, because they are a stub. And also in the router 2, show IP route EIGRP can show us that here we don't have any EIGRP learned route from the router 3 and router 4. Also in the router 3, if you check the routing table, show IP route EIGRP, you will see that we learn in the router 3 the networks of the router 1 and router 2, but we don't advertise those networks to the router 1 or router 2. This is the EIGRP stub router. The next option of the EIGRP stub router, receive only.